Hi, this is Dr. Jennifer Freed, and you are watching In Your Element, where I highlight leaders in their fields and I ask them questions around the elements to actually give you a chance to love them even more. And today I'm thrilled to have on Ingrid Fetell Lee, who is the creator of the Aesthetics of Joy. And she's a designer and an author and an awesome human being. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Is there anything you want people to know or where to go to find you or?
I'm a designer, as you said, who studies joy for a living. And if you're interested in finding more joy, you can find me at Ingrid Fetell on Instagram and at aestheticsofjoy.com.
Excellent. Let's get right into it. Fire. What fuels your inner fire?
When I was thinking about fire, I was thinking about, what has sort of been like the driving force behind all of my work over the years, and even just, how I like to live my life. And the thing that kept coming up for me is beauty. That I am
yes, clearly
highly just drawn toward beautiful things. And really it's not, I think, what you would conventionally think of as necessarily beautiful, but sensorial experiences that are enlivening, being out in nature or, just finding a beautiful beach or, I don't know, beautiful ripe fruit, or, of course, art is a really big part of that too.
Just seeing your dress with the pillows and the wallpaper fuels my inner fire. Okay. Oh. What helps you stay grounded? That's an earth question.
Related, I guess, nature is a big one, and a big part of my decision to move out of the city and live closer to nature. So being able to, walk on the beach with bare feet and literally feel grounded is a big one. And also writing, I think, is a very grounding practice for me. I do morning pages, not every day, but especially when I need to feel grounded, I do the 3 pages longhand, no pressure, just stream of consciousness writing. And that's a very grounding practice for me.
And what would you say is a core guiding principle? That's an air question for your life. A principle.
I would say the core guiding principle for me is curiosity, and embracing curiosity over judgment or over thinking I need to know the answers. So I always say that I like to live my life in terms of questions. And that's how I ended up in this strange field that I'm in, at the intersection of design and psychology, where I just had questions that I couldn't get an answer to. And I always say that when the questions start to get uninteresting, that's when you need to go find new questions. That's when it's time to move on to the next stage of your career or the next job or the next whatever it is.
And then what melts your heart? The water question. Where do you get the good feels from?
This is kind of abstract, but tenderness. And I think tenderness can take so many different forms. I'm lucky to be married to someone who I think is a very tender person. I have a baby who's, 2 years old and very tender. Animals can be very tender. So I think seeking out any kind of experience of tenderness is helpful for me, who can sometimes be a little bit, focused and driven, and that can really help me tap into my own sort of softness.
Yes. I do think tenderness is contagious and softens the edges. Yes. So what outrages you, Ingrid? Like, ugh.
Oh God. Well, right now, a lot.
It's a time. Pick your issue.
Like, which thing am I more outraged by right now? I would say that right now, my biggest outrage is the climate and what we are doing to this earth and what we are ignoring, and how just maddening it is to see that we're on a train hurtling toward disaster, and no one can get focused on that because they're so focused on all the other disasters that are man-made, right? Like, this is all man-made. But that one is like, it's preventable. We could stop it, and no one is moving. It's not even moving. They're not moving fast enough. They're not moving at all.
Yeah. So then what calms you down? Because that one can get you really riled up, but what calms you down?
What calms me down? Being in my garden calms me down for sure. So nature for sure, but I think especially cultivating something in the earth, and maybe that is like it is the ballast against that, is recognizing that I'm doing the tiniest little thing for, my piece of the planet, for the biodiversity in my space, for my pollinators and so on.
I like that. And I actually believe if everybody took it upon themselves to do their part, small or big, then we'd be fine. Okay, so who or what do you go to for inspiration?
That's a great question. I go to a lot of artists. I mean, I think art is a place that I go to for inspiration. Ellsworth Kelly, Matisse, Hockney. I think just looking at visual art, it's a different modality, but it's really helpful. There are a lot of writers I love too. I love Annie Dillard and Mary Oliver, and I think poets and writers of slowness and observation. Wendell Berry, I think, is another one, who sort of slow things down and remind me of sort of the sacred in all things.
Okay, then what really makes you cry? When you have a big cry, what's it about?
Oh, wow. What makes me cry? I think feeling out of control can make me cry. Whether that's, politically, social, when I feel like things are hurtling out of control and I can't do anything about it. Or just in my own life, there's a situation where I feel frustrated and upset and I can't fix it, or I can't control it. Yeah.
I agree that when we feel helpless and powerless, it's a good time to cry until we reset. Okay, so how do you approach things you're really scared of?
Things I'm really scared of. Well, there's my default coping mechanism, which is avoidance. I'm a big avoider. And I've learned that, lots of therapy. I have learned that I am an avoider. And so it's helpful to know that, I think, because it has helped me realize that I can notice the behavior as it's happening. I can notice that I'm going into an avoidance state. And I've learned to realize that I don't actually conquer the thing that way. I just kick the can down the road. I'm still going to have to deal with it. And it's usually worse later, right? You have less time to prepare. You have maybe annoyed someone in the process of your avoidance. So yeah, I think I often rely on the psychological understanding of arousal and recognizing that, for example, a lot of people have heard this, that anxiety and excitement often can feel the same. And the research shows that if you tell yourself, I'm excited instead of I'm anxious, you will interpret the way that those jitters feel in a different way. So I've learned to do that. And then I've learned just to practice. So like speaking, I was the person in middle school who couldn't even run for office without like standing up and having the paper I was reading my speech from shaking. I was so anxious. So the idea that I like speak on stages now in front of like 1,000 people, my younger self would just not believe it. But it's only because I had so much coaching and I do so much preparation that it really helps me face those fears.
Okay, what is one big failure that you've had that taught you a lot?
Oh, gosh, I know I've had many failures, but thinking of one in particular.
You could just pick a smaller one. I just want people to realize that women that reach the top of their fields had enormous boulders and bumps along the way.
Well, I mean, one thing is that I set out to write my book, and it took me 10 years. And all through a lot of that time, I saw it as a failure. And so, for example, one like instance of those 10 years was I was introduced to an agent. I met this agent. I really liked her. And she said, okay, go away and send me a proposal. And then we can talk about representation. And I went away and I just couldn't get the proposal done. And this was in year 2 of working on this book. And months went by and years went by. Well, P.S. this agent actually left the field of agenting and I still hadn't done my proposal. When I saw her LinkedIn notification that she had changed professions, like 4 years later.
You were probably the reason she went, God, this
I know. She's like, I never got that book. I'm just, but
yeah.
That felt like such a failure to myself because I had, I'd wanted to write this book and here we are 5 years into the process and I still didn't even have a proposal. Yeah. And I mean, I was working a full-time job. I was really doing a lot of things, but that made me feel like such a failure. And I remember a mentor of mine, Virginia Postrel, who's a writer, she said, look, a book like yours is only going to be better for the time that you're taking to research, to gather. And it was so helpful because it reminded me that like, no one controls the time horizon. Like I don't have to do this by a certain date or it's a failure. And P.S. I ended up finding the best agent for me down the road. It took me 7 years to even get to the point of getting the proposal together. When I did, I found the perfect partner for me to bring this book to life. So
I think it's profound wisdom to relay to any artist or creator that there's no failure in the time it takes as long as you keep going at it.
Yes. And you'll have periods, dry periods, and that's okay.
Here's the next question. What are 3 top qualities, Ingrid, for you in choosing a friend? What are you looking for?
Oh, goodness. In choosing a friend, I am looking for someone who is true to their word. It's really important to me to have someone who's not, who deals directly, communicates directly, communicates what's on their mind, isn't hiding or holding stuff or has sort of baggage around communication. That's important. Someone who's inclusive and welcoming is really important to me. And someone who has some, I think some alignment in terms of, values. That's really abstract, I guess, but like it feels like I can be myself with them. I don't have to pretend to be someone else.
Excellent. And the final water question is, when you say the words, I love you, what do you mean?
When I say I love you, it means I want, it means a lot of things. Gosh, it means I respect you. I have a great respect and admiration for you. And I want you in my life. And I mean, because I can say I love you to a friend, it doesn't mean I want to spend all my time with them in the same way that like I say I love you to my husband, and that means I do want to spend all my time with you. But fundamentally underneath it, there's a great respect, and there's a great affection, a feeling of like I want you around. I want to keep you close to me.
That's beautiful. I feel like you're just wrapping me in that feeling of, be here with me. I want to be there with you. Okay, well, thank you for being on In Your Element. If you want to get more in your elements and find out how to do that, live a fully expressed life like Ingrid is, then please go to jenniferfreed.com and get my new book, A Map to Your Soul. Find Ingrid, Aesthetics of Joy. You will never be disappointed because this woman is a blooming bouquet of joy. Thank you for being on the show.